Okay, what do we look for when we're buying a tent? I call it the 4 F's. Fabric, frame, floor and features. You go through those 4 points and you'll learn very quickly about what makes a good tent and what makes an average tent. So we're going to talk about it with this one. This once again is the Bow 3x3 metre tent. I'm going to start with the frame. One of the best things about this tent is the frame is virtually unbreakable. It's made out of a spring steel material. As opposed to a dome tent, a normal dome tent is made out of a fiberglass frame that is hollow with a cord through the middle. What can happen under winds of 30, 40, 50 kilometres an hour, those tents, the frames can fracture and break. This one does the same sort of job, but as you can see, this is a solid core frame. There's no hole through the middle, and it is also made out of spring steel. So the spring steel doesn't fracture and it doesn't break, and as you can see on this tent, there's not one guy rope on it, and it's not required to have guy ropes to handle very strong winds. And here's the test. Have a look at what I'm going to show you now. I can stand on this frame and it won't break. I wouldn't dare do that with any other tent that I've seen on the market. So that's the frame. The best frame you can buy on any tent. Very, very strong. Been tested in 100 km/h winds, so it's going to outlast and outperform anything I've seen. The next point is the fabric. This material, as we talked briefly a moment ago, it's Australian made. It's a very heavy grade, very dense woven, cotton-based fabric. It starts off as a white colour. It is then gone through a full treatment process. That fabric, starting with white, has got that, you can see that thread through its ripstop technology. What that means is that's actually a polyester core of thread going through it. Makes it really strong. So if you put a hole through that point, it is not going to tear past one of those little squares. So a cotton-based fabric. Why do we use cotton? Cotton breathes. Cotton is a fabric that is going to be cool in summer, and you're not going to have condensation issues that you can sometimes face with synthetic material. So a cotton-based material is very, very important to start with. It's very, very strong. Now the process of treating this fabric is what makes it different to anything else in the world. It's a process called dynaproofing. Most fabrics on the market are treated by putting a film on the top to make them watertight and give them treatments such as mildew resistance. This one is not a treatment that's a film on the top of the fabric. The dynaproofing process is a sponge treatment that sponges the treatments right to the core of the fabric itself. So it goes through a big vat machine of the chemicals, and the chemicals are made up of the waterproofing, the colour dye, fire retardancy, mildew resistance, and the fabric is passed through this big machine and it is sponged to the core of the fabric, and that process is done twice. So it's a very in-depth treatment process. Effectively what that does is it means you've got a fabric that will not fade, you've got a fabric that will not rot, you've got a fabric that will not leak, you've got a fabric that will breathe. So our tests have proven that after having this fabric out in the sun, tent set up for 18 months, permanently set up, the fabric still looks just as good as it did the day it went up. So a brilliant material that will outlast anything that we've seen in any other tent design. The next F is the floor. Let's go down to the floor. Lots of materials to choose from when making a tent, but this one is a PVC floor. It's 550 gram weight PVC. Put that into perspective, that is probably 3 or 4 times thicker than any other tent floor that I've seen. It is a very, very tough floor. It's got welded seams. So internally, you can see in here, there's no stitching on the floor. So it's fully welded seams, and the floor actually comes up the side, so it's called a bucket floor. So there's no seams on the floor here. But most importantly, it is very, very tough, so that it's not going to wear a hole easily. It's going to resist abrasion and leakage at that point. So that's the floor. Very, very good material. The last thing we want to show you is the features. The features, many of them in this tent, are built so that it will last. No point in having the best floor, the best frame and the best material if we don't have features like the best zippers, the best mesh in the windows. So here we go, have a look at this. This is called shade cloth. We use this on the windows. It's very tough, it's very finely knitted so insects won't go through there, but most importantly it's durable, UV resistant, it's going to last in the weather. Internally we have vents up the top of the tent here. So up high we've got air vents so the air can flow out of the tent so it doesn't get too hot inside. And have a look down the bottom corner here. This is a power cord access. So if you're on a powered site, it's a waterproof Velcro sealed power cord access. You can run power cord through there to run lights and things like that inside the tent. Coming back out to the front door, you can have a look at the quality of the zippers used. Okay, the world's best known zips are YKK. They are the best quality zips. This is called a number 10 coil zip. YKK brand, the best zips money can buy are used throughout this tent. So that's the toughest zipper on the front door, and all throughout the tent the window zips have also got YKK zippers. The clips used to clip the door back, these are also UV stabilized, very tough clips. The material used in the webbing is also UV stabilized. It will not fade, it will not deteriorate. The thread used in the stitching is a polyester thread with a cotton sheath around it so that the thread will actually swell in the stitching holes and last for many, many years. The strength comes from the polyester and the cotton sheath swells. Little things like these points here, how does the tent clip on? We have brass eyelets. We have spring steel clips that clip the tent on with a PVC sheath around them, so they're not going to break or wear out. And lastly, things like the pegs. Have a look at the pegs that we use. Most tents are supplied with a mild steel peg. These tents are supplied with a spring steel peg that will outlast any other peg. You can hit this with a hammer really hard, you can use it in hard ground or soft ground. The great thing about spring steel is it's not going to bend and break like mild steel will. So very, very tough pegs are supplied with these tents. Okay, so we've talked about the fabric, the frame, the floor, and some of the features of the tent. A couple of other points we want to show you. This model is called the Bow. Once again, it does come with this side windbreak, as you can see. It's not standard on every model. There are about 10 different models of tents in the series of different sizes, but that's a great feature that can give you a little bit of wind protection, a little bit of sun protection at the front door if you want to cook. Things like guy ropes. Let's have a look up the front here. These guy ropes here are spliced, as you can see. They're actually attached to the canvas of the awning, so they won't come off, and they're spliced before you get the product. The guy rope slides are also UV stabilized, and so are the guy ropes. So if you leave these out, once again, they're not going to fade, they're not going to break, they're going to outlast any other guy rope that I've seen. Coming across to the windows, once again this is shade cloth. You can see we've got nice big chunky buckles on the window covers. When you roll that down, if you're facing some bad weather, the window flaps can be stood out like that to give you shade but airflow. And you've got nice big wide covers over the zippers. Once again, YKK zippers, the best zippers you can get to close them over and anchor them out. One of the great things about a shade cloth window is you can, when you're inside the tent, you can actually see out, but effectively you can't see into that tent from the outside. So you've got privacy as well as strength and durability in this product.